by chiropractic, by massage, by acupuncture, however we feel drawn to care for this incredible physical form that we are all occupying right now. And because then I could be more balanced as a minister, and we could all be more balanced as people. I started reading the book, The 28 Laws of Attraction. Stop chasing success and let it chase you. That's by Thomas Lennon. I opened it, and the very first idea I opened up to was the concept that it is imperative for creating a consciousness of receptivity. And the concept is this: become incredibly selfish. Become incredibly selfish. Now, I bet you never thought that you would hear that coming in a spiritual setting, but I'm going to explain what that means. Given all the ways so many incredible, powerful, wonderful things come on here that are calling for my attention, and still taking care of myself, putting myself first. And this is for all of us when I speak I, myself. Take that in as you, yourself. The emails might not have responded to. Yes, the calls not returned. It goes on and on and on. So here's what I'm trying to get at. A whole new level. Becoming incredibly selfish is an opener in consciousness for us to be a conduit for the infinite flow of plenty. If we don't love and take care of ourselves, we are of no real use to others. We must clear ourselves out, take care of ourselves mentally and physically and spiritually, all of it. We're one package deal here. So in this context, I want to clarify, being selfish does not mean being greedy. It does not mean being cold-hearted, cruel, hurtful, inconsiderate, unwilling to help another. It doesn't mean any of those things. But it does mean for us to fill up our souls first. To fill by taking care of you. By taking care of, as I said, this vessel, this vehicle that we use in this lifetime. The incarnation of the divine that you are. This is what this is. This is holding our divinity, the divine self. Ernest Holmes said that spirit imprints form into itself and calls it you. And so we are all, each and every one of us, these bodies are housing that divinity. That is the truth of who we are, that divine self. In the 28 Laws of Attraction, Leonard wrote this: selfishness is the first step. It is not a lifelong ambition. There's no real point in becoming the most selfish person in the world. However, becoming selfish can get you started on a great path to having all that you need, and then building a matching reserve. This is good. Reserves are key, he writes, to becoming irresistibly attractive to the flow of good and support no strings attached generosity. No strings attached. That means you give with no strings attached. You give from your heart. You give from your very being, knowing that you're always taken care of. In fact, selfishness, as we are defining it today, ultimately allows us to be more generous. It truly does. And to have that reserve to pull from. So I got to tell you, though, it took me an awful long time, but I finally learned. I'm a slow learner sometimes, and a late bloomer. But it took me forever to actually have a reserve, I'll be honest. And I have a reserve. but it took many years of consciousness. To not get sat down and set goals and plans and doled out. Budgets and stuff, I don't know, it's not me, but it's it's good. It's good to have that mentality. I don't have it. But anyway, in spite of all of that, because I kept working on my consciousness of expansion and knowing the good of God is always present right where I am, so I have this reserve now, so I can give more freely. And that makes me feel so great to give. And then it just comes back in all kinds of ways. It comes back automatically. So a few things to be aware of around this topic. Creativity, excellence, and evolution require selfishness. When you know you're onto something, a potential breakthrough of any kind, you need the purest kind of focus and concentration possible. You need to answer to the callings of your heart and mind before you answer the callings of others. This is where the self-love, this is where the selfishness in our definition today comes in. You versus roles. You are distinct from your roles. Often we think that we are our roles. Selfishness often requires reconstructing or releasing some of the roles, so there's room within our energy field to grow. If we keep filling it up with roles and all kinds of stuff and yes to everyone that comes along, there's no room within us to grow and expand and give from that place. Give from that place. Learn to say no without a reason or an excuse. And by the way, it's easier to turn a no into a yes than turning a yes into a no. Try that one. You say yes to someone and then you change your mind and say, it's not serving me. And you go back and you say no. So it's easier to turn a no into a yes than turn a yes into a no. I recently read a passage from Living the Science of Mind by Dr. Ernest Holmes, where he talked about changing our language from I am one with God, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, but changing it, this just takes you to a higher frequency, and he thinks that suggests separation to I am of God. I am of God. I am of God. So I took that phrase into meditation one day and started to play with it. And if I am of God, I am of God, then I live as God. That divine essence flows in through as me. That's my truth. That's what goes on forever. Then I am God's health and wealth. I am God's love and light, peace and plenty, creativity and caring, beauty and bounty, intelligence and infinity. I am all of those things when I am of God. And there you are, right back to being in tune with the infinite, completely in tune with the infinite. Which, by the way, is changeless, never changes. So this is so reassuring. It's so reassuring. And overflowing with God's good to and from and around and through us. Just immersing ourselves in this flow of absolute good. Author and activist Andre Lord once said, I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self-indulgent. Caring for myself is an act of self-love. It's an act of self-love. And that brings us to the activity. We have an activity about becoming incredibly selfish. And so my question to you this morning is, how could you radically care for yourself? Radically care for yourself. How could you become incredibly selfish, using our definition, and how could you open yourself up to receive more in this sea of plenty? You already live there. We already live there. And it's just like the fish in the sea asking, where is the sea? We live in this substance of absolute good. We live in it. This is what we teach here. We live in the substance of good, and we're always looking for it. We're in it, just like the fishes in the sea. But here's the guidance from 28 Laws of Attraction. Becoming selfish can get you started on a great path to having all that you need, and then building a matching reserve. We talked about that. Reserves are key to becoming irresistibly attractive to the flow of good and support. No strings attached generosity. No strings attached. It's the best way. It's the only way I really feel to give. No strings attached. Just doing it from the heart. And these are not rhetorical questions this morning that we're going to get into. They are real. And I'm desiring you to answer them right here and right now. In fact, in your bulletins, you'll find a piece of paper. I'd like you to take it out. If you need a pen, our usher will give you a pen. Just raise your hand if you need a pen. We have pens this morning because we are abundant in pens. So right on the top of that page, radical self-care. Radical self-care. Now close your eyes and take a deep breath, a really, really, really deep breath. In fact, let's take a couple of deep breaths. Kristen, can you close those doors? There were people like joining us outside. They aren't really joining us, but. So again, keep breathing. As Deb just tinkles on her little keyboard there, because she wants to be part of the exercise too. And you can, by the way, finish these at home at any time. So close your eyes and really get into that breath. Just breathe deeply. And with each breath, open your heart, your mind, even wider. And even wider than that, to the realization that you live right here and right now in a sea of plenty. You are swimming in an ocean of abundant good. And everything is available to you. The only thing that you must do is to receive it. And to have a consciousness that is open to it. And in this moment, we're going to create an opening to receive it by identifying at least 3 things that would support you in radically caring for yourself, in being incredibly selfish. How are 3 ways that you could more lovingly care for your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions? 3 ways. Just think about that. And when something comes through, just write it down on your paper. How could I take care of me mentally, emotionally, spiritually? What are 3 ways, at least, in which you would and could engage in radical self-care? You can finish this at home, too. I want to take it just a step further. Go back and look at each one and put a date which you will do this or begin to do this. What's a date that you would start to do this? So take your paper in your hands and place it over your heart as we bring our time to a close in a prayer of the blessings of these commitments that we have just made to ourselves. And again, take that breath, breathing in all that you have written down or thought of or felt, however it has entered your energy field. As we go to that place in consciousness that knows there is only one power for good. There is only one creative flow of infinite supply. There is only one. A unity, a unified field of infinite potential that is always present. This is what we call God, what we call Spirit, what we call the universe. However we call it, it knows because it is who we are. All the good of God is our good. We are of God. And so, knowing that we are of this divine, infinite potential, every good that exists within us, for us. And so I declare and state right here and right now that each one of us moves forward in our lives with this self-care, this self-knowing, that since I am of God, all that I envision for my own self, all that I desire, comes forth into fruition in my life in ways that I could never imagine. For this is my good. This is my God. And my God is the one God, the infinite God, that incredible source of endless supply, never repeating itself, just forever open and forever giving of itself to all that it creates. How could we not be so grateful for this loving energy that is our energy, for this loving supply that is our supply? Of course, we are so grateful, opening our hearts, our minds, our souls to receive all that good through our consciousness, through who and what we are. And I give thanks for this. I give thanks for these spiritual teachings which raise us above all conditions. I give thanks for knowing that the infinite is limitless. And knowing that this word is absolutely complete, I release it into that divine law of infinite mind, that law that takes these words, this word spoken here, and brings forth the most perfect manifestation in each and everyone's life, in this moment And in every moment, I celebrate it, I embrace it, I know it to be truth, and so it is.
So it is.